Hey, Julia Barzyk here from Wise Investigator. Happy New Year. It's 2025. I hope 2024 wrapped up well for you with some rest and relaxation and that you've stayed relatively healthy. So, we are here in 2025, and I would like to share with you today my number one tip for getting ahead with funding success in 2025. So I think there is one thing here to keep in mind and to aim for, and there's many different ways that you're going to be able to achieve this, but I'm going to lay out the number one theme here. So bottom line is you need to start having many more things done for you. So we could talk about this generally, like we like to use indirect terms sometimes, right? Like say getting support. This is what do I mean by getting support? Okay, getting support is general, and it would be correct to say that you could get support with a lot of things that are related to funding, career items that are related to funding. But I'm going to be real explicit here. So you need to work on getting many more things done for you. This is because of the continued and really accelerated pace of the information overload and workload that you as a professor are under. And this does not show any sign of abating in terms of the information that we're all expected to consume. And, some of it we choose to consume, right? But also the workload does not seem to be easing up for anyone in the university setting. So I do also think, excuse me, that we are also in denial about the situation. So even if you yourself are not in denial, I don't feel that I'm in denial about this. This is why I'm making the video and advocating for this, and why I've developed solutions that can help PIs. But the structure that we have in place, that's been in place for decades, many decades, that is responsible for managing things at the university, at our government organizations, et cetera, where all of this plays out, publishing, et cetera, they are not generally keeping up with the times, right? They're not eager to change things. There's a lot of inertia within any kind of large organization that's known, that's very common. And we're seeing that play out here, where they meaning, the people who are would be in positions of leadership that would be able to effect some kinds of changes and improvements to relieve pressure on faculty, are not really either taking the steps to do that, or they're not moving quickly enough to do that. And even if certainly many individuals within the academy do want to see these changes happen, but again, in a bureaucracy, I work for the federal government, I understand how things work in a bureaucracy. It can be difficult to make these changes and improvements quickly enough to actually help people right now. So I'm not going to get into that any further, but just to say that there is a certain level of denial, not just from those folks, but from the PIs, faculty, yourselves, any of us ourselves can be in denial about the amount of work that we really are responsible for and the probability of actually being able to accomplish it. And other people outside the academy are also in denial about this. For example, I have talked recently to teams from two software as a service or SaaS providers. These are folks who are making software products that are really great products that help people in research do things. And it's common with anything that we're working on to feel like this is the most important thing. This is the number one tool. It's so exciting. Why wouldn't anyone want to spend as much time as we do with this, right? And so they've developed these products, but there is a good amount of work that needs to happen either on the front end in terms of setting up the software, and or on the back end of, well, maybe back end's not the right word when I'm talking about software here, but let's say on when you set up the software, right? So when you're setting up the software, there is a lot of work that needs to go into it by the individual. Then the software does its thing, which is really great. And then you have your outputs. What are you going to do with this information that you are is delivered to you very quickly? And it could be a lot of it. It could be really good information. So these teams generally are excited about the tool and invest a lot of resources into making sure that works really well, but still the users are left with the problem of it's a manual setup to get all this information in there to keep it updated. And then it's a process afterwards. What do you do with all the information? If you don't do the right thing, in this one case, you could get yourself into a little bit of trouble if you're not informed and you're using this information in a way that is kind of reckless, say, because it deals with intellectual property and stuff like that. So it's not just folks in the academy or in government who, I believe, it's my opinion, are in a kind of denial about the bandwidth that everyone has right now to invest in new tools, new resources. The information is out there already. And this is something that is, again, another kind of form of denial of thinking, well, if people just had the right information, we need to have more training programs. We need to have another seminar, another webinar to deliver this information to people. When they have this information, then they're going to be able to take action and do what they need to do. Now, it is true that people have lacked information, especially about things related to research funding. And that's why I write a weekly newsletter and I put other information out there directly related to funding. So I'm not advocating for stopping the flow of information or not sharing information, but a really good example of information that's out there that still isn't really enough is my over 3 hour Department of Defense funding for university researchers free video course. So this is over 3 hours of content. It's a very comprehensive overview. It's still an overview at that length because there's more you could say. But this is available to everybody anywhere around the world who could access that through the internet. Anyone is able to view this information. Now, if you were to view this information and take action on everything that I suggest doing in those video lessons, you would have good results because I've laid everything out there for you. Now, we have had hundreds of people register for that. I don't have data on how many, the viewing time, right? The software that I use to host that does not show me information on like how far people have viewed through, if they viewed, 2 minutes, if they viewed 2 hours, if they viewed the whole thing, if they viewed it multiple times. And, if you have signed up for that or registered for that and gotten access to the course and not viewed the whole thing yourself, I would never fault anyone for that. It's a lot of information. It may not be the information that you need at this point in time, or you may really not have had time to sit there and absorb it. So I'm well aware of that. I wanted that to be there for people who it would make sense for and who would use it, even if it's just a few people that really get a big benefit from it because they're the only ones that actually watch the whole thing through and then go ahead and do the steps that I recommend for them to do. So this is my point, though, is that the information is there. I've even had people say to me, like, oh, I could charge for that. It's good information. It's well produced. And, in times past, sharing this kind of information may be something that you could ask someone to pay $100 for or pay $1,000 for. This kind of information was sold in the past. Now, there are a couple reasons why I didn't want to do that. One is that even though I'm no longer a government employee, the information that I am presenting in those videos is from my job as a civil servant, where I was paid by the US taxpayer. So this is information that I want, again, even though I'm in business for myself, I'm no longer a civil servant, and I have a for-profit business. I want people to have this information, and I felt that it was really the most correct thing to do to make this information available free, just like the webinars and information that comes from the government itself on these kinds of programs is free for anyone to access. Even though it's not an official program, I still wanted that information to be free to people. And I do, related to that, care about the success of the Department of Defense research enterprise, wanting to get people more engaged with that. I'm still an American, and this is just important information for people to have. So that was one reason why I did not want to charge for that information. Another reason is that I know that even though people often feel like they're missing the information, they need more to have success than just the information. So since I knew that, what I want to charge people for and what I do charge people for is the help, the support that actually is going to lead them to success. So I'm going to charge people only for things that I know are very directly helping them to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. If I feel that something is not, if I'm ever not sure if something is completely effective, I would never charge for that, right? But we're all still free to put the information out there. Maybe I'd make a video and share some thoughts, right? So there's nothing wrong with sharing information, but in my business, what I will take money for are things that I know will lead people to results directly. And with information like on that video course, that is good information. If you really do follow it, you will have success. But it is too hard for most people to make their way through all of that 3 hours of content and then know how to implement it in just the right way and follow up on everything in just the right way. Okay, so I would like you to think about getting back to 2025 and what you can actually do here. Going into 2025, thinking about the work that you need to do falling into 3 categories. Okay, so DIY, which is do it yourself. This is how you do most of your work. I'm sure it's mostly just done by you. Then there's also done with you. So this is when you get someone like a coach or a mentor or students could help you do something. This is when you're working with somebody else and they're not doing it for you, they're doing it with you. And then done for you. And this would be when you hire somebody. Usually you'd hire or pay them. You wouldn't necessarily have to. Maybe they could just do it for you. Spouses could be good for that, right? But they probably have their own work. So you would be getting help, so that not just help, but you would be getting someone to do something for you. So my advice for this year is to think about all of the work that you need to do. I'm going to talk about your professional work, but the things you need to do in your personal life are also worth thinking about in this capacity as well. In terms of, is it currently a DIY, a do it yourself, done with you, DWY, or done with you, or DFY, done for you? And think about how much of your work is falling into each of those 3 categories, and then also thinking about what category you want that work to fall into, and if you can work on shifting the categories. So there are certain things as a PI that you are going to always do for yourself. That this would be having technical conversations. So if you are going to talk to a peer in the research community, you're thinking about a collaboration and you need to have a technical conversation. Could we work together? What are you doing? How might this work? There's nobody else that can do that for you because you are the top level expert in that area. That's your research. Really, no one can really represent that for you. Same thing with meetings with any kind of like VIPs where you're talking about your research. You want to be the face of that research. So you're not going to send somebody to do that for you. Those would be, a VIP meeting would be a high priority meeting that you would want to handle yourself. So these are things that are going to remain do it yourself. Now, currently, though, I'm sure you have many more tasks besides those that you are doing. So let's think about done with you. What are some things that could fall into the done with you category? Ideally, right? So these would be things like preparing the proposal package. You already do have some done with you help because when you're working with people in your research office and they're doing a good bit of that budget for you and other items, so that's a done with you. But again, you're informing that, you're working together, and that's done with you. Other types of communication can be done with you, because this is something that PIs often struggle with. And so at Wise Investigator, when we work with clients, we are guiding them on how to take that next step in the communication. There's often emails that go back and forth with funders, and they may need help understanding, okay, what would be the most important questions to ask here? I'm going to have a chance to talk to this person again. I want to make sure that I get my questions answered, or should I say this or not that? And that is done with you, because they are the face of that conversation, but we are supporting them in those communications. These are just a couple examples here. All right. Now, done for you, this would be things like formatting documents and slides. If you have to redo your bio sketch for a new format, that can take 45 minutes, an hour, honestly, to get that to where it needs to be. And it's quite possible that if that's just a formatting job, that could be done for you. Same with slides. You could put some information on some slides, but pass it on then to make those slides look good and to format them and make them visually appealing. Figures, that's another thing that could be done for you. Editing, language editing can be done for you. Photography, videography, like that type of media, putting that together can be done for you. It often is done for you if someone from the news office may be assigned to cover some work that you've done, but you can think about additional ways of engaging resources and people who are capable of helping you promote yourself and your research, and having them actually do it for you. And that will relate to things like websites, like making a website. That could be something that, again, is done for you. So there is this category that is very important, which is the done with you category. And the Wise Investigator program really does a lot for folks in this category. And the idea is that you want to move over time things out of that done with you category into either the done do it yourself category or into the done for you category. For example, the emails that are written to program officers. It's important that the client, the PI, learns how to write those emails. Then after they are confident in that, and that's not a challenge for them any longer, then that could be something that you could have someone do for you. But I would never drafting the emails, right? Not sending the emails from someone's account. But I would never be drafting emails for a client who didn't already know how to do them themselves. The difference is that once someone, for example, if it's a tenured professor and they're extremely short on time, then perhaps drafting some introduction emails, introductory emails, other types of correspondence, drafting that for that person could be very helpful, and it could save them a lot of time. But ethically, this should only happen for someone who is capable of managing their own communication themselves. If you were to take someone who was not confident in doing that and didn't have any plan to learn how to master that, and you just started doing it for them, then they would become dependent on having someone help them. They would not be able to have success in any of these things on their own. There may not always be someone there to help you if you're not capable of doing this kind of work on your own. It's going to come back to bite you, right? In the end, it's going to come back and cause a problem, because you're going to find yourself stuck in a situation that you don't know how to handle. So it's important to learn certain skills, master those skills, be comfortable with those skills. But then after you've done that, it's okay to get somebody else to do that for you. The same thing with, so similarly, other items that would be in this done with you category would be things that are going to move over fully into the do it yourself category. Like, for example, preparing for a review of some kind. Say you're funded, you need to prepare for that. A done with you approach would be to help that person in the preparation And then in the next time that they go through that process, they may not need any help at all. This would be something you would not pass off to another person because this could be on the category of VIP meeting. You need to do that yourself. So my commitment with Wise Investigator is to continue to assess what are the most critical tasks that PIs need to accomplish to have the funding success they're looking for, and how can we as a business provide just the right level of support across all of these categories. So again, a lot of it is going to be the done with you, because we're not just doing it for you so you don't learn those skills. You have to learn the skills, but then you're either going to do it on your own afterwards, or you can employ support, get help, get some of these things done for you, because it's just not realistic that you are going to be able to do everything that you want to be doing with the bandwidth that you have. And I don't necessarily see our systems and our environment changing quickly enough to alleviate that pressure on you. Enlisting support is important. And this is an aside point related to this that's also important is being realistic and not in a delusion about the amount of time that goes into a lot of these tasks. Like, again, editing the proposal or formatting the documents, give these items the respect that they deserve, and realize that there are people that can help you, and we can help you do that. Identify those people and those solutions. So that is my commitment. I'm very glad that I went ahead when I founded the business of Wise Investigator with the strategy of helping clients one-on-one. I really knew that giving more information, just putting more information out there, is not enough. And even if I can be paid for that, right? Because there's still systems in place that want to offer programming of a certain nature. They need to offer programming of a certain nature because that's expected. And I'm not saying that programming doesn't have value. I have presented that type of programming myself. So if I didn't think it had value, I would not do that. But I am very glad that the focus of what I do has always been on the one-on-one support and doing that do it with you type service. And so we're going to continue along those lines. And like I said, I'm going to be analyzing every step of what we do and saying, is this something that we could just take off the client's plate and we could just do that for them? How can we take more off of them, but then not take off the things that they need to be learning to do? So thanks for hanging with me through this video. That is my number one recommendation for 2025, is to work through this do-it-yourself, done with you, and done for you trio, and figure out how over time you can get much more into the done for you category. So have a wonderful start to the year. Thanks a lot.